Hello, this is JIGHEAD TV, and as you see, there is some reels on the table today. So let's talk about reels, how to choose the reels, and what kind of reels to consider. So this is Back to Basics with JIGHEAD TV. So the first question that comes into new beginner fishermen and other fishermen's mind is what type of rod I should choose. And once they choose the rod, the second question that they have is what kind of reel should I use for that rod. And how to choose a rod, we already spoke about it. And now let's talk about the reel itself. And because the reel is something that one of the main components of your fishing gear, and you have to make a really wise decision on what kind of reel to attach on what type of rod. And we're gonna talk about it today. And the first thing that you will look at once you got your rod and you know the strategy, what type of fishing you're gonna do, the first question we'll have on the reel that you have to look and you have to consider is the size of the reel. So there is many sizes written on the reels itself, and probably you've noticed before there is 2000, 2500, 3000, 4000, I don't know, 14,000. And what are these numbers, and how to choose the perfect size for you. So the numbers are just the size of the spool, which is determines how much of braided line or monoline you can put on your reel. It comes from manufacturers, from different manufacturers, and of course the main two manufacturers are Shimano and Daiwa. And these two companies, they have their own reel size standards. I will put the whole complete chart of the comparison between Shimano and Daiwa reels. And just for the simple basic understanding, I would say, for example, if we have a 2000 size Shimano reel, it will be 1500 size in Daiwa. And for example, 4000 reel in Shimano will be a 3000 reel in Daiwa, and goes so on. But like for example, if we say 14,000 size of Shimano reel, this is equivalent to Daiwa 6500. So their standards are a bit different. So that's why you will have to look at the technical specs of the reel, and usually manufacturers, they mention there how much line you can put on each reel, and from there you can go ahead and understand. The other manufacturers usually either adapt the standards of Daiwa or adapt standards of Shimano, but you don't have to go very deep into details of that. Just look at the specifications, and all the manufacturers, they usually mention how much line you can put in each size of reel. Sometimes even some companies, they don't like to be a bit different, so they don't mention like 3000, for example. Their model will be called, like for example, C30. So we'll just remove two digits, two zeros, and it will be only 30 or 40, so which is equivalent to 4000 or 3000. So the spool size is the first thing that you're going to look at, and what kind of spool size and for which type of fishing we would use. I would also put a chart here, and which determines like for example, let's say we go for ultralight, and ultralight we will take reels from 1000 up to 2000 size. I'm talking the sizes that I'm going to talk today are going to be mostly equivalent to Shimano sizes, because this is the most popular sizes, and you can later on compare them to Daiwa and make your own decision. So for ultralight, we will go 1000 to 2000 size reels, which usually puts 150 or 200 meters of 0.6 0.6 or a 0.8 line in up. This is approximate estimation, depends of course on the how deep is your spool. For light we will go 2000 up to 3000 size. For medium light we will go 2500, 3000 size. For medium type of fishing we will go somewhere from 3000 up to 4000 size. For medium heavy and for heavy type of fishing we will probably go from 4000 up to 6000 reels. And this is considering that you are not fishing with more than 3 PE from shore. If you are going for sizes more than 3 PE, of course the reel sizes, and that means you are hunting much bigger fish, and you will be putting completely different reels, bigger size reels, be it 6000, 8000 or 10 or 14,000. But this is, we are talking about fishing big tunas, fishing GT from shore, fishing amberjack from shore. But when you are speaking generally for the UAE area and most of the GCC areas, for example, from shore we will go from 1000 up to 6000, depending on what type of gear, what type of rod and what type of fishing you're going to do. The next thing that you will have to look at once you are choosing your reel is drag, the drag power of the reel. And what is the drag power of the reel? And many people ask that question. So the drag power is the combination of small washers that are located usually in the spool, and I'll try to show you somehow. So here, for example, we have a drag washers, layer of drag washers. They come in a carbon, they come with a metal carbon, and these drag washers, what they do, once you start spooling, when you start fighting the fish, they create inertia which gives additional power for while you are fighting the fish. So the fish will be retrieving your line with additional power. So, and the power is determined in kgs. And for example, there is reels with 5 kg drag, there is reels with 20 kg drag, there is reels with 30 kg drag, and each one determines what kind of power you are going to put so the fish retrieves. So the fish is retrieving, like for example, let's say take a reel here, open the drag completely, so we have any resistance, and this is going to be called as open drag, and the fish is gonna take the line without any resistance. So it goes, takes the line, there is no resistance, and it just keeps going. And if you close your drag a little bit, so you will start giving some of the resistance to the line. That means you are giving, like for example, I'm giving like a half kilo resistance of drag, which that means I'm putting half kilo weight. So the fish is taking the line with some power, it like as if it's dragging a half kilo like bottle of water behind it. And I can, for example, adjust and add more, like I'm adding, like right now, for example, let's say the drag is 2 kgs. So that means I put some weight of 2 kg weight on the line, and the fish is dragging that 2 kg, with the line. So this drag gives you a power to fight the fish and to give some additional resistance to the fish, so the fish is gonna tire itself. And once the fish is tired, it's gonna just, you're gonna keep closing the drag, giving it more resistance, keep closing the drag, giving more resistance, until completely fish is tired, and you just bring the fish towards you to the shore or to, near your boat. So that's the simple explanation of the drag. So the drag washers create resistance, and this resistance determined in kilos, and this resistance is to fight fish and to give it additional power so the fish tires itself slowly. And I hope now you get a bit more understanding about the drag, because some people were thinking that the drag, you know, is 5 kilo drag, that means I fight 5 kilo fish. No, it's not about that. It's the amount of power you are giving to the fish to tire itself. That's the main understanding of the drag. It's like you are going to gym, and to tire yourself more, you're gonna put more weights and you're gonna get tired faster. So the same thing here. But the only thing is, don't forget that the drag, like for example, if you are fighting, let's say most of the fish you are catching is a maximum of 2 kg, and you don't need a 30 kg drag for that type of fish, because this fish is going to have some power, but it's not going to have a power of to fight it, you know, to give a resistance to a 30 kg reel or drag system itself. So that's why you have to determine, you know, like if you really need, for example, if you are doing mostly ultralight fishing, and do you need the reel that has a 25 kg drag if you are putting only 0.6 line on it, which is you know, also, I mean, if you close completely drag fully and the fish is really strong, your line is gonna cut anyway. So you have to determine what kind of fish you are fighting, and according to that fish you have to choose the amount of drag you are going to put and the reel you're going to choose, because the more drag you have, usually it adds up on the price of the reel itself. So that's why make a wise decision on choosing the reel which suits your type of fishing, because some of the drag which you paid extra for it, and you might use once a year, you know, and otherwise you could have spent that money on your lures, on some other gear, you know. And these decisions have to be made correctly, and of course do additional research on that, and this will help you to understand the drag system more. The next thing that you will have to understand when you're choosing your reel, and you will have to understand and remember, for each reel is a different type, so it's a gear ratio of that reel. What is the gear ratio? Gear ratio usually mentioned in on the boxes on the reels themselves. The number, you've seen them: 5.4 divided by 1, 6.0 divided by 1, 6.4, and 7.1 divided by 1, you know. What are these numbers? So that number is like, for example, this reel is 6.0 divided by 1. So that means with each one full rotation of the handle, I will have 6 rotations of the bail. If it's 5.4, for example, that means with each one full rotation of the handle, I will 5.2 rotations of the bail. The gear ratio determines how much of the line is retrieved per one full crank. And this is very important to remember, because the retrieval, it's not only important when you're bringing the fish out, because you can just wind faster or do something, you know, when you're fighting the fish, but the importance here is how you're going to play your lures. Let's say, for example, in general, for some type of baits you will need very slow type of action, and for some type of bait you will need a fast type of action, and that's when the gear ratio will come into play. For example, if we are playing metal jigs, and we are playing them, you know, hunting for pelagics and for queenfish, kingfish, and sometimes trivalis, they like very fast action, very fast movements of small metal jigs, you know, they move as the bait fish very fast, trying to hide from the predators. So that means we need a higher gear ratio, so we can play it faster, Like for example, this one is 6.0 gear ratio. That means with each of my jig play, and like for example, if I make a jerk and the full rotation, so that means my jig will jump approximately 1 meter. You know, the one full crank brings 88 centimeters at the jerk itself, so around 20 centimeters. So you have one jerk will bring 1 meter. And but if I'm playing, for example, trying to catch sea breams or some flatfish or some other type of rockfish, and they like a slower action of the lures, like I'm playing soft bait, I am playing crankbaits, and I want to retrieve very slowly, so I need to know that my gear ratio here is 6.0, and one full rotation will bring 88 centimeters. So 88 centimeters is approximately like 1 meter, you know. So that means one rotation for you it's nothing, you know, just rotate once, but the lure will move like that in one movement, you know. It will move 88 centimeters. And some of the rockfish are very lazy type of fish, you know. They will not just go and fight that kind of, you know, behind this lure. So you will have to do much more slower retrieves to move your lure much more slower, so they have a chance, you know, to see it, to come closer to it, and to bite it. And this is the important part, why you need to know the gear ratio of your reel. Of course, some people they determine specific gear ratios. For example, if they have rods which they use like only for soft baiting with the lower gear ratios, with the crankbaits, for example, they use faster gear ratio reels for with the jigs and stuff. So if you can afford it yourself to do that, please, you can do that, you know, and determine specifically each reel for each type of fishing. But if, for example, you're using only one reel, or you came to fishing and you had only one reel, and you didn't take your soft bait reel, for example, you still can fish, but you need to know that the gear ratio on this reel, for example, is higher. So that means you will have to do much more less cranks. Like for example, the quarter crank on this reel, it will be like a half crank on this reel, approximately, let's say. So that's why you will need to know your gear ratio and use it wisely, use it properly according to the lure you are fishing. And what type of lures and what kind of gear ratio to use, we will talk about it in the next videos. And the last thing that I want to mention when you're talking about the reels, and you will have to consider, is the number of bearings on your reel. Bearings are very important to make your reel work smoothly and fight the fish properly, and it gives some nice feeling when you're using a high bearing rate reels, and the smoothness will be much more higher, and of course the budget will be much more higher. But of course there is two things that you will have to consider. First of all, try to go as much bearings as possible according to your budget. Like, let's say you have a reel for specific amount of money, and it has 4 bearings, and you have a reel from a reputed company, of course, and it has, like, for example, this one had the 4 bearings, and you have a reel with 6-7 bearings and only like $20-30 above, and if you can afford that, go for a higher. So you will feel that, you know, the smoothness, the smooth action of that reel, the way you're gonna retrieve your line, it will be completely different with the more bearings it has. But please consider in mind that, you know, like some non-reputed companies, they use the bearing thing, you know, to market their reels. They might make a reel with 12, 15, you know, 20 bearings, but make sure that the bearings are stainless steel bearings, and make sure that, you know, like some of them are specifically, you know, like coated with the corrosion resistant liquids or oils. Make sure that the bearings that they use inside are not the chrome metal bearings, which will become very unusable after a while. But try to use stainless steel bearings, which are more reliable, and they will have much more and will serve you for much more time, and of course the smoothness will be much more different. So keep that in mind. Bearings are important thing. The more bearings you have, the more smooth is going to be your reel. But remember, the thing is that the more bearings you have, the price will go higher. And of course, make sure that it's reels from reputed companies, and because there is many reels of very low budget price with enormous amount of bearings inside, but after 2-3 fishing, sometimes they just stop working because of the quality bearings used inside and the overall quality of the reel itself. So bearings are very important, and try to find the golden medium, as we say, that the budget suits you and the amount of bearings is enough for you to make the reel as smooth as possible. And the last thing, just to say about general, when you're choosing the reels, the reels are one of the important part of your fishing gear, and the balance between the reel and between the rod itself is very important. And of course, the weight of the reel is important, especially for shore fishermen, because you're going to be fishing a lot and carrying your rod a lot, and you're gonna get tired. So that's why look at the weight of the reel, and specifically for ultralight fishing, when you want to balance your gear properly, so the rod is very like around 100 gram, and your reel, for example, around 180 200 gram, so each gram matters, because the heavier it is, the less sensitivities you're gonna have, and the lighter it is, the much more sensitivity you're gonna have. So try to balance your reels. But at the same time, I want to mention that try to use the reels that are proper match to the fish you are going to fight. Like for example, if you are going to go and hunt for bigger fish, try to have the reel 3000 size and above. If your main strategy is to go for light and ultralight, the reels up to 2500 is more than enough. So you have to know what exactly you're doing. And for offshore, let's say for west coast of UAE, which is areas of Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Ras Al Khaimah, Al Quwain, these areas, the depths are not very great, it's not more than 40-45 meters. In general, you will fish in 20-30 meters depth. So the fish is not that huge as, for example, on the east coast. So the reels up to 6000 is more than enough. Of course, depending what type of fishing you are going to do, but mostly it's you will go with a 2 PE, 3 PE max, and reels up to 6000 max. But when we go to the east coast side of UAE and we are fishing for a much bigger fish, I would advise going from reels of 6000 and above. Like when you're hunting mahis, smaller size tunas, you will go for 6000, 8000 reels, and for bigger tunas you will already start using something around 14,000, and try to use as less as 3 PE. We are talking about casting itself. Why 3 PE? If you are going alone, of course you can go and fight big tuna on 0.6 PE. That's not a problem. Fight it for a full day. But when you are going usually on the charters and you have a group of your friends and other fishermen with you, and the time is very important, because especially the time when the fish is feeding is not that much, you know, great. So that's why I try to use greater reels, you know, starting from 6,000 and 8,000, and with a minimum of 3 PE, so you can fight the fish properly, but at the same time not fight it too long, so other people have a chance to fish too, because usually once you hook the fish you will fight it, and other people will remove the line most of the time, waiting for you to remove the fish. And especially when it comes to fighting tunas and searching for them, if you hooked on something and the frenzy will, tunas will move somewhere else, so that's why you need to bring your fish as soon as possible and go find another frenzy, you know, so other people can cast and enjoy and try to catch the fish. So this is general and basic about the reels. I hope this is somehow helps you on your next gear setup. And if you have any comments, please ask the question, comment below, either on here on under the video, or you know, our social media, so I'll put it in the description. Any questions, any suggestions, please, we are very open to that and waiting for it. So thank you very much, and stay tuned for more videos. Bye bye.